Okay, and we are live. Hello, and welcome to Tina and Karen Do the Two. I am Karen,
This is Tina.
and
How's it
we got
going,
an
Karen?
excellent. Yeah, I've been doing good. I've been doing really good this week. How have you been?
Good. We're a little more remote than usual, or at least one of us is, right?
Yeah, um, me and my wife are out here at a cabin in Shelton. We just wanted to get away. It's my dad's cabin, and he's selling it, which is sad. Um, but the really sad part is I really wish I could have brought more people out here. Like I could have envisioned you and I coming out here.
Yeah, it sounds nice out there.
It's really nice. It's a great place just to get away. And we have a fire going on in the backyard right now, and my wife out there is maintaining the fire while you and I are having our little chat.
All
And
right.
I can't. Yeah.
Where are you cooking?
We're just doing hot dogs tonight. We're just doing something really simple.
All right.
Yeah. All right.
Of
So
owning a
we have.
cabin down the road.
What is that?
I've entertained the idea of owning a cabin, later in life.
I thought you were into a house.
I guess I've had a lot of ideas. I was gonna build my own mini house in Seattle, but then I found out that you have got to build a foundation first in order to build a house in Seattle.
Yeah. The whole thing about permitting is a nightmare because like my dad who owns this cabin, it's a three parcels of land really, and he's selling two parcels to this couple from Seattle, and they're going to move out here as their primary residence. Uh,
What?
yeah, I think they work in like tech, so it's like he can do 90% of his job from home, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but as for the parcels of land, he's keeping one uh, third of the property, and he plans on building a shed, not a domicile, just a shed, like a 10 by 12 shed. You get the legal largest size structure you can make without needing a permit. And I asked him, like, well, what are you going to do when you need to go to the bathroom? Because you can't get plumbing or sewage, right? And I think he's just going to build an outhouse, just dig a hole.
Really? Did he just get tired of the cabin idea, or was it just made sense to sell?
No, it has to do with him and his spouse, my stepmom. Technically, they own it jointly, and she doesn't
Hmm.
want it anymore. So he's found it easier just to sell.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he would have personally had bought her out is one thing that he was mulling over, but then they got a full price offer, and I think he took it. Anyways, before we get into some of the other topics we can get into, because for tonight's episode we sort of had a guest planned, but then that fell through, and hopefully we will get him on for next week's episode, just so our audience knows. So we sort of have to this makeshift podcast tonight,
We're
and we're going to start off.
freewheeling, people.
We're
We're
free
we're
living.
free balling.
All right. We have a couple topics that we might want to touch upon. There's certainly a lot of talk about the presidential debates, and one of the biggest comments made in the presidential debates is about the Proud Boys. We were going to discuss the Proud Boys. Kyle Rittenhouse. This is sort of an old story at this point. This is over a month old, but we never actually touched upon it, and I think it's a very interesting topic to go over. And we're going to start with this question, though. Martin, Tina,
Go ahead.
would you rather drink half a cup of a stranger's saliva or eat all the hair out of your bathtub drain?
I think is the person with this doing the saliving, is he sick? Do they have some sort of virus?
We don't know. It's a stranger.
Okay.
Roll the dice.
Well, as far as like ease, I think I'll go with the saliva.
It
Like
has to be really.
trying
Like,
to swallow that hair. Oh, and I don't even know
no,
how that's gonna digest.
no, no, no. You know, I could have started us off with a lot of different questions. I chose that one because it felt most warming to my heart. Uh,
I mean, in a sense, we're breathing in everyone's saliva all the time.
in
So,
essence,
I mean, maybe I shouldn't look so grotesquely at it.
Maybe we shouldn't be so judgmental. Maybe we should just swap spit with everyone.
I mean, I don't even like getting my own hair in my mouth. Why would I want other people's hair in my mouth?
Yeah, you know the funny thing about you is you routinely kind of change your hairstyle long to short, and I'm sort of the same way. But you routinely go from Frodo to Frodo off screen, which is just Elijah Wood.
From from Frodo the character to Elijah the actor.
Yeah, yeah, how he keeps his hair up. In other words, I'm just saying you look like Elijah Wood.
Okay,
I'm sure you.
I'm learning to take that as a compliment.
Hey, Frodo saved the day. Except, no, wait, Sam did. So
Yeah, I just kind of helped us get there.
I remember I had a big debate back in college as to who the best Hobbit was. We all agreed Frodo was the worst, and then we had kind of we all had a kind of a debate between Sam and Bilbo. And what do you think?
What about Miriam and Pippin?
They didn't do much. They convinced
Character fodder.
they convinced some trees to fight a tower. And hey, I'm not gonna knock the notion of convincing trees to do anything because I couldn't do it. But at the same time, I'm not gonna give them big props. No.
I mean, I, Sam pretty much saved the day. If Bilbo is the whole Hobbit that started everything, so really, I mean, it's all his fault.
No, but I want to give Bilbo credit because he took on a dragon and he's very smart. He was able to do a lot of things that I think a lot of the other hobbits weren't able to do.
He opened up the idea to people accepting hobbits as you know, legitimate people.
Hobbits were a very discriminated upon minority up until Bilbo. He was the Martin
Yeah.
Luther King of hobbits.
Before that, they were just like half people.
They're halflings. Yep.
Now people
Okay.
kind of see them as half people, but more fully minded.
Are they? Well, I think the thing about the hobbits, they were always considered smart, right? I mean, like if you had to pick any place in Middle Earth to live, wouldn't you want to live in the Shire? It's like Switzerland.
It
It's
sounds the
like
nicest.
it's Switzerland. It's goddamn neutral, man. It's fucking paradise.
Why do people generally like maybe people are just more indifferent to halflings because dwarves were generally more well respected, I want to say, more than.
Well,
But
I
I mean,
think that
if you're the elves, you hate everyone because you always see yourself as the superior.
yeah, they're the Aryans. No, I've always questioned like how do I always like because J.R.R. Tolkien obviously based a lot of his writing based on what he knew of medieval European history, and I always wondered how he saw the race. And I always thought he saw man as the English and the dwarves as the Germans, um, miners and whatnot. Uh, I always wondered who he saw the elves as, and I had to go with the Turkish because at that period in time, uh, the Muslim world was far superior to Europeans. So I had to believe that the Turks were the
The elves,
uh,
because they were also
the elves.
considered the sick man of Europe at that time too. Like the elves haven't really progressed at all in the Lord of the Rings. They've kind of been the same society forever at that point, right?
Yeah, they're like the Japanese in the
Okay.
sense that they no, I mean, like let's think about what Japan is. I mean, like
Mhm.
I love Japanese culture, but wouldn't you have to agree that Japanese culture is heavily based upon the idea that the Japanese have to remain pure?
Yeah, like half elves are really looked down upon, aren't they?
So
They're
what?
essentially humans.
Who are the half elves? Is there any half elf in the story? I don't remember.
I don't. Maybe they don't really have any true half elves, and maybe it was an idea concepted more in the D&D world.
Yeah. Out of curiosity, do you play Elder Scrolls?
I don't. I just had an interesting discussion with my coworker the other day about how the AI and was it Oblivion, one of those Elder Scroll games, how unique it is.
Uh, Well, I don't know which game it would have been, but those Elder Scroll games are really intense and detailed, in depth. Um, I, I I never really could get into them because I don't like the open world format. When I play an RPG, I kind of like Japanese RPGs because they have a set story. I don't like open world RPGs because I can get I want to focus on the main quest, and it gets too easy to focus on side quests.
You don't you like the straightforwardness of the start to finish model.
Well, the way I see an RPG is that basically you're just along for the story, and I want to be told a
Mhm.
good story. Some people see RPGs as a chance to level up your character, customize them, and explore. For me, it's always been I want to be told a really good story, and the gameplay is sort of secondary to me.
It's not about like the lore and getting the best weapons and all the, funny side quests and all that. It's more like
Not so
I'm here
much.
for the main quest.
I'm here for the main quest. I mean, obviously, the games that come to mind. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of Final Fantasy VII. That's that's my favorite game from my youth, and it's become basically one of my favorite games of my adulthood. Which do you find it kind of funny that like the idea that video games are so much of a mainstream hobby for adults these days? Because it kind of was sort of seen always as a child thing.
Huh? I I I don't know if I've thought about that too much because I used to play a lot back in the day, but I hardly play video games at all. In fact, one of my goals during the pandemic was to finish a video game for the first time in the longest time.
So you
Um,
don't play video games as much as you used.
no, 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 I didn't. I mean, I probably played video games as much as I work, you know, 10, 12 years ago.
Oh wow!
Oh
Is
yeah,
that
I
like Taverns Day?
what's that?
Is that like back during your Tide Taverns Day?
Yeah, yeah, my 2 years where I wasn't doing school and working part-time, it was awesome.
I kind of remember like a time in my own life where it was that way. Like my period between after I graduated college from when I started my career with where I work now. Not going to get into it. Uh, it was uh, it was this really nice period of time where all I did was play video games, drink beer, and relax. It was like 4 month period where I was just happier than ever. And I think I was being selfish too because my mom was in the part was sort of selling her house at the time, and she expected me to do a lot of household things to get it into shape to be sold.
I
And
remember that.
I took it for granted. Um, I paid her rent and I kept the house clean, but I wasn't doing anything really productive other than that. And I kind of felt guilty after a while. So
Hmm.
that's when I had to move into my own place. And it's kind of funny because I don't know what you think about this, but like one of the things I think I made a mistake on in my 20s is I got my own apartment too fast.
Really? Would you have rather lived at home like another year or
No, 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 not that. I mean, like I wish I had basically gone out there and found a roommate because like well the thing about like what I did was I moved from like living with my mom, and then as soon as I got my first job, I got my own place, which it had a lot of benefits. But I often think, where would I be right now in terms of my social life if I had just done a different approach and say, hey, I need to find a place with a roommate so I could save money. Because I
I
used
mean, you kind of did that when you bought your first house.
That's right. And that's what I'm talking about. Because that was actually,
Hmm.
even though I was kind of miserable for other reasons, that was one of my better years of my life because I made good friends and we had a lot of nice times hanging out, talking about life. And
Hmm.
I kind of feel like my 20s was so isolated that I wonder who I would have been if I had found a roommate to sort of introduce me to new social circles and bounce ideas off of talk.
Uh,
Because you've lived with roommates your entire like you've never lived with
I've probably had the opposite experience you've had. I've lived with over 15 different people since I moved out.
right. And what do you think would be different if you got your own place?
I feel like my life would be a lot quieter. Not that that would be a bad thing. I mean, I probably have like three or four unanswered texts and messages right now that I haven't responded to in a few days.
You live with
So
a bunch
I'm
of
not like the most social person, but when I'm kind of around people and in the mood, I'll do whatever they want to do.
kids. And like, how many of the original people that you moved in with back when you first moved to Seattle do you still live with now?
Only one of them was part of the Northgate house. That's the only connection.
Is
Like
that Bobby?
Ty, who we had on the podcast a little bit ago, was the first roommate I've ever had who wasn't either friends with our knew someone that I lived with before or had any like secondary connection to that. So he was the
Yeah.
first like random roommate.
Has it been like kind of, can you envision a scenario in the future where you're living in a house that has no connection to the house in Northgate? Is that plausible?
If I bought a house, I would probably look for roommates. I don't know if I would have to venture out and find random people, but I'm I can get along with most people, so I don't know how that
So
would
you wouldn't
be.
want.
I also have to point out that none of the 15 roommates I've had have ever been women, unless you want to include my sister.
Well, okay,
It,
fine.
it's all a different vibe too. Like not one person isn't the same, and how responsibilities are kind of like doled out is always different depending on who's living in the house.
Can I just say, as someone who's lived with both guys and girls, guys are a lot easier to live with.
I can believe it. Like even when my sister was living with us, it it was like just a completely different vibe. Like things were
Right, right.
cleaned a lot more often, and they tried to have like Taco Tuesday implemented for a while.
You kind of do more festive things when women are in the house. It's not just sort of a go at your own speed, do your own thing sort of thing. You kind of have to be a community, which is
Hmm.
nice.
Yeah, the
I
thing
kind
with
of
like
like,
guys is like I can live totally separate lives living all in the same house. Like you can definitely live that way with guys. They'll just mind their own business and you might interact occasionally, but really it's like not it can sometimes not be like a true community.
right. And like, so I bring up the fact, like, one of my bigger regrets about my 20s is I got my own place too soon because I can look back fondly on my days in college and say, wow, like living with those guys are some of like the best times of my life. Like we
Mhm.
always, and like it was for the most part it was nothing, like I would say like Monday through Thursday it was, everyone's in their room, no one, we barely talked to each other, we all just did our own
Mhm.
thing. But it was always kind of this comforting feeling knowing that like on a Friday and Saturday night you'd never be
Mhm.
alone. Like you guys would all hang out. So I had my two roommates, and we had another guy who routinely came over, so he was basically like our fourth roommate. And the four of us were like a pack. You know, some nights it would just be we're staying at home, drinking beer, playing video games, and some nights would be like we're going to a party or we're going to a bar. But it was
Mhm.
nice having that mentality that we were a pack. And when I moved in, when I moved out on my own for the first time, I didn't have that, and I was in a new city. I didn't
Mhm.
make any really good friends in Tacoma until probably year three, other than my coworkers.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
You don't have
so
that person that has that already established kind of social life that you can just kind of jump into in the city.
right, and I think that it's a really nice thing because for me personally, I've had to transition my life twice now. From obviously living on the Key Peninsula growing up in KC,
Hmm.
moving to moving back to Tacoma. So there's something to that transition that it takes some time to get settled into a new life. And I
Hmm.
wonder about would I be able to do it again? And
Okay.
yeah, because I don't know if Tacoma's my long term thing.
Really? Because you've always touted yourself as the quintessential Tacoma man.
Ah, I don't get me wrong, I love Tacoma. But it's it's not like I'm attached to Tacoma. I could easily pick up and leave.
Hmm.
I've often thought about like Colorado or Utah or one of the Rocky Mountain states. Like, would I be happy out there, or would I be happy in like Michigan? I don't know why
Hmm.
Michigan.
Really?
Somewhere in New England, like Vermont, New Hampshire. Like, oh my God, I think I'd be loving like New Hampshire right now, especially fall. My God,
I
but
really liked New Hampshire when I was over there in the wintertime.
in the winter, oh, I don't know about that. Was the winter? Oh, yeah. The thing about like, okay, so the problem with the West Coast is we don't have seasons. We have summer and we have the gray.
Especially in the Northwest. In the
Yeah, but, but I think with like if I remember my days back in Pullman, there were four distinct seasons. I loved it. I think I missed part of that.
That's what they
Um,
say about Ohio.
yeah, I have a friend from Ohio, and he says the same thing. It's like he says Spokane reminds him of the Midwest, and he misses. It's around fall where he really misses Ohio.
Hmm. Yeah, I haven't spent all 4 seasons in the Midwest, but it definitely got that sense when I was reading about it. I guess the guy who drew Calvin and Hobbes, I can't remember his name, but the artist, he lived in some small town in Ohio, and you could tell in his comics that he draws for the seasons while Calvin and Hobbes are living there. You can just see every little different aspect every time of the year, whereas in like the Northwest right now, it's either the gray or wildfire season.
That's what's become.
Hmm.
Oh my God, yeah. And going forward, that's going to be more of that. Um, but I think Garfield was also the same way. I always remember Garfield, like they do a really good job. I used to read like the Garfield books that you can get out of the library. I remember back in like high school and middle school, you could check out Garfield cartoon books, and I just read through them. And it was always nice to see that like the cartoonist didn't like ignore what was going on. You could see there was always a Christmas phase, there was always a Thanksgiving phase, there was always a Halloween and a summer phase and everything. And that's what I love about fall. Fall for me is the transition, and fall is there's so much to love about fall. There's football, change of
Hmm.
colors, the holiday. Holidays are the best here.
No. From
Like my wife,
end of October to January.
yeah. Except Thanksgiving won't have as much meaning now because I'm not going to be seeing my family. So that sucks.
Really, what are your plans for Thanksgiving? Are you not? Are you doing it
I don't.
by yourself?
Well, I don't know. Maybe you can actually entice me into doing something, but I know I'm probably not doing Thanksgiving with my family this year because my mom, who usually hosts it, she's really taken this pandemic super uber seriously, and she just shut everyone out.
Mm.
So, and my sister too. They don't really want any contact with any of us, which has been sad for sure. But it's not like we're going to have our Thanksgiving dinner, which is usual. So I'm open to suggestions. If you have a Thanksgiving dinner, please invite me.
Okay. I mean, I probably have the most experience with different Thanksgivings. Like I've been to like all my friends' Thanksgivings pretty much, and because my family wouldn't weren't hardcore on celebrating it, so I've been to many different versions of Thanksgiving.
Did you
So I'll
host
let
it?
you know what I hear. I don't know if
Okay,
my
well,
extended family is gonna have one this year, so
yeah, please. If you hear anything, please send an invite because yeah, like my mom's not doing Thanksgiving this year, so me and Mary have like no um, firm plan, and I'd
okay.
love to join someone else's Thanksgiving if possible.
Let's start putting
Yeah,
that together.
I've
Uh,
only I have only missed my family's Thanksgiving one time in my life. That's because I was dating a girl who invited me to her Thanksgiving dinner, and I went there, and it felt kind of awkward.
really?
Yeah, because the way they treated Thanksgiving was different from how my family treated Thanksgiving, and secondly, I wasn't like this girl's boyfriend at the time. We were dating, but it wasn't like we were in a relationship.
Uh,
So I got asked questions by like her little siblings, like saying like, "Are you like her boyfriend?" And I was like, "I don't really have an answer." She sort of like, and the weird part is she sort of treated me like I wasn't even there. She was more like into her family, which I get, but like I don't know anyone here, and you invited me, and now I'm not. I'm awkward. I'm sitting out there awkward.
Yeah,
I
I
remember.
mean, I can't say I've been to a Thanksgiving where I didn't at least know someone that was, or more than one person at that setting. There's usually like
I,
four people or more.
I think I think I made the most of it too because we watched these funny movies that I oh god I forget what they were but I want to look it up because they were funny and I played a game of chess with the girl's mom, the one I was dating, and she
Hmm.
was really good at chess, but I won. I ended up having a good time, but I remember there was this awkward feeling in the sense that like the girl who I was dating sort of did not include me into anything. I was just there, and people were
Mm.
wondering why.
Yeah, yeah, that would be awkward. Like if you actually were dating, you think that she would be a little more like showing you off a bit more, or they'd be more interested in who you are. Sounds like you're just kind of
Yeah,
a third
it,
wheel almost. Like
yeah,
you're
kind
friends
of
with
that
the
way.
guy that's dating her almost.
Yeah, and I remember like so like this is interesting. I'll talk about this a bit. This was the last girl I dated before I met my wife. It
Hmm.
was sort of my last straw, because if I've not mentioned it on the podcast, my wife is international, and I basically said I'm done with American women,
That's all it takes. Just
and
find
it
yourself
was
someone outside of the U.S. and he'll give you a different perspective.
well, it was actually really the smartest decision I ever made. Really, it turned out to be. I thought it. I joined the so I joined the international dating site mostly on a laugh, like, hey, why not? Fuck it. But it ended up being the decision I ever made. I never actually. I don't think I ever actually thought it would go anywhere. I
You
really
went
didn't.
in with like zero expectations, and
Well,
turns out it.
prior to joining that website, I never had left the country. So the thought of flying to a whole nother continent to meet a girl was pretty astonishing for me.
Yeah, it astonished me too, but didn't really surprise me as well.
Oh no, I'm pretty sure like when you told all your the group of guys we hang out with, they said, "Yep, that sounds like Jet."
They yeah, they probably were thinking, yeah, that sounds more like Chet, but even then, it still surprised me a little bit.
It did. Well, it surprised me for certain. I never thought I'd do it, but like I don't regret a second of it. I think I'm very happy and I'm very blessed. But anyways, um, thank you. Sorry, my wife just came in and she blew me a kiss.
Oh,
Oh, I know it's very sweet. We're cute couple. Uh, speaking of that, like how you doing in Seattle?
what's
Singles
up?
game in Seattle. So how's the singles game?
How's this during COVID? I mean, I
Oh
guess I
yeah.
haven't really even tried. I do notice when semi-attractive women come into the store, I'm a little more alert.
Oh, semi-attractive women, you
What's that?
say. I said semi-attractive women, you say. It was a
Oh, I
typo.
see. Yeah, I mean, if they got any sort of anything that catches the eye, I'm definitely a little more caught.
You know,
You know.
I remember that feeling too. Um, just the feeling that like when there was a girl who I was attracted to. It didn't matter what she would be on the scale. It's just like when I noticed I was attracted to a girl, like there was this this thought in my mind that I would allow to run wild, where like she's the one, and
Yeah.
that's sort of like a funny to think about, but like that I think that's how a lot of single guys think of. Like as soon as they are attracted to a girl, they think to themselves, "She's the one," and then well,
Think
that
so? Because I mean, most of what I hear from other guys on the internet is like, "Oh no, you shouldn't be thinking that at all." You think it's just a natural thought though that they may have just suppressed? Because usually
well
it's the
no,
other way around, where the women's like, even before they even interact with the guy, they're already pretending like how their marriage would go and what the wedding would be like.
okay, well maybe I'm the outlier, and I I don't necessarily think that's not true because actually I was having a conversation with my wife about that just today, in the sense that I think I was in a unique place because I had this firm principle where I thought to myself, I don't believe in sex without love, and I wasn't willing to violate that.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
so I don't know. I'm pretty sure that I know that's not the case with most guys, but at the same time, like once again, I browsed this website called 9gag, which is a place for lonely virgins to post funny memes.
I
And
want. Hey, I'm just put this together last night, but does nine gag does the nine stand for a penis and gag
God,
stand for gag?
God damn it, I oh my
Is
God,
that true? I was thinking that last night and I didn't look it up, but now that I have you, I wanted to ask if you knew anything about that.
I doubt it.
Are
I
you
don't
sure? I mean, it makes a lot of sense in my mind.
know because the website is based out of Hong Kong, which for one is uses the metric system, and for two, like I don't think that anyone in Hong Kong is measuring in 9 inches of anything.
I was just like thinking like, the shape of a, penis, a six or a
I'm not
nine.
what
Is there a ripoff like 9 gig called like 6 gig?
I don't know.
Because I know like with 4chan there's a even raunchier version called like 8chan, or there used to be.
Okay, well the thing about 4chan and 8chan is like 4chan is where like most people meet to be trolls, and 8chan is where the hardcore Nazis wanted to meet.
You think that's where the trolls would want to go though, is 8chan, not 4chan.
No. 4chan is like because that's the same thing with 9gag. Like people like to be trolls, they like to be funny, they like to be edgy, and then like the people who really are devout about these sort of ideas, they'll find this unique community beyond the mainstream. And that's like 4chan to 8chan. From what I understand, from what I understand about 4chan is it's mostly just a bunch of like teenagers trying to be edgy. And then 8chan is where the hardcore Nazis go to basically spread their conspiracies and spread their, um, message.
Where do you think the best comment threads are usually? Like YouTube videos, Reddits, or 4chan, 9gag, Imager, 8chan?
I don't,
Where do you think you're gonna
I
find
don't,
the funniest stuff or most
okay,
interesting?
I don't frequent a lot of those sites. The two sites I frequent the most in terms of these things is 9gag and YouTube. And from my experience, 9gag beats out YouTube in terms
Really?
of like, yeah.
Quality of comments.
Yeah, I think the average person on 9gag is actually pretty funny. Like, they have a good sense of humor, which is funny because the majority of people on that site are German, which you wouldn't think is them being funny. But yeah,
What- What's that South Park joke with the Germans are like constructing like a joke, right? Or German scientists are here, let me look it up here.
I don't know that joke. I can think of a joke off the top of my head though that revolves around the Germans. There's a show called Strangers with Candy, which with Stephen Colbert. It's a
Hmm.
hilarious show. If anyone wants to watch it up, it's really good. It's like a parody of all high school drama. and like Stephen Colbert plays like a history teacher, and then he describes syphilis, and then one of the students asks, "Do people die from syphilis?" And then Stephen Colbert responds, "Yes, statistically, it's right up there with German."
Oh my goodness.
Well, like, come on, 2 world wars. Let's be honest.
Yeah, statistically, the numbers might match up.
Well, I know, but I know a lot of Germans who don't feel that way because, like at least with World War I, a Serbian nationalist kills like a Archduke of Prussia or wherever it was, and
Hmm.
everyone blames Germany. Uh, and uh, and then World War II, an Austrian guy decides he wants to kill Jews to create a master race. Everyone blames Germany. Well, that one's a little more plausible, but the one with World War I think, is actually fake. Why blame Germany for like a Serbian nationalist killing the Archduke Franz Ferdinand?
Okay.
That one's fair. Okay, so a little history lesson. People don't know much about World War I. World War I was started by a, well, that was what happened. Like, I think
Hmm.
I can't remember the exact, my geography, my early 20th century geography is a little weak, I'm afraid. I don't know if it was Austria Hungary or Germany, but I think it wasn't Germany. I mean Prussia. Could have been
Yeah, it
something
was
else.
one first time it was kind of like a united Germany, though, right?
I think the thing with World War I was, it wasn't a bunch of like secret treaties that got everyone involved.
Yeah, yeah, that's essentially what was the ticking time bomb. Is one treaty was um, breached, and then that breached because that one person became another person's enemy. Then everyone had to take a stance.
Right, right, and that's kind of funny, and it makes sense. But I just wonder, how did Germany end up as the scapegoat for World War I?
Well, they're the ones that decided they wanted to to war with everyone, right?
I don't know, because like I think like that was like the argument behind how the League of Nations, which was like the original UN, how the League of Nations basically caused World War II is by
Hmm.
blaming Germany for the war, which obviously is going to upset Germans. And then there's this little guy who comes around and says, like, hey, Germans should be proud of who they are, and the Jews are responsible for everything.
Yeah, turns out he's an Austrian guy though too.
I know, I know. I think wasn't Hitler Jewish, like part Jewish?
I think well, and I think that Eva Braun, his not his wife, but his partner, actually turned out to be part Jewish. Like they did a DNA test on her because I don't know if they actually have any of Hitler's DNA or not.
Huh. That would be an interesting find. It'd be like a great like national treasure movie.
The quest to find Hitler's
Yeah, the
identity.
search for Hitler's. Let's clone Hitler.
Well,
Um,
that's the thing. They never found his body, right?
right,
But where does
right.
this idea that Germans were unfunny come from?
It's probably because that they're so industrious. Like, I mean, you can have one of two reputations, right? You can either be free spirited and fun, or you could be hardcore work ethic. And like, I
The
think the
German
Germans went the
machine.
yeah. You know what? Like, it's not a bad stereotype to have, for
To
Germans.
be
The
unfunny.
idea that they're no, 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 no. The fact that they're very efficient and they're very hardworking and they're very industrious, like, it's not a bad stereotype. But unfortunately, if you have that stereotype, you're not going to get the stereotype of the fun-loving, free-spirited person.
In a sense, it's the worst insult they could have. Would you rather be called lazy and dumb or unfunny?
Ooh, that's a good question. Would I rather be called lazy and dumb? I don't want to be ever called lazy and dumb, but unfunny means that I'm not creative and I don't have a free mind.
Yeah, a kind of free thinking mind.
Yeah, I know. So that's kind of a toss-up. Really is good because I think, why not both? Germans apparently found. Oh shoot, it's raining. Oh darn, I didn't get to enjoy the fire.
Oh
Fire's going
no,
out.
the fire's
I know.
going out.
Well, it's raining, so I'm sure it's gonna.
Ah,
We're not
shit.
gonna want to sit out there when it's raining.
Hmm.
But I'm glad that my wife got to enjoy it for a little while. That was the first fire I've ever started without using newspaper.
What'd you use?
Just kindling, just small pieces of wood.
Oh, just dry wood.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, chop it
Yep.
up small enough. Yeah, it will work.
Normally,
Once,
when I come out here, my dad had this big bin of newspapers, and it's easy to start a fire with newspapers. But
mhm.
like he moved it, it's all gone. So now I had to basically scavenge for small pieces of dry wood.
One time when I was camping, we didn't have any newspaper, and we tried to start a fire with moss, and it actually worked.
Oh, yeah, that would make sense. I used a lot of like dry maple leaves.
Hmm. Well,
Mm-hmm.
there you go. Um,
There you go.
did you want
Hey,
to
we're
talk
40
about
minutes.
the Proud Boys at all? I know we're coming up on 45 minutes.
I know we're 40 minutes into this podcast, and we actually haven't even brought up the things we agreed to discuss. But yeah, let's talk about the Proud Boys for a second. Uh, the reason I wanted to talk about the Proud Boys is because in the first presidential debate with Trump with Biden, which did not go well for either side, especially for Trump,
Hmm.
uh, like Trump was asked to condemn white supremacy, and he did. He said, "Sure." And then when he questioned, who are you talking about?" Joe Biden said, "The Proud Boys." And here's my thought: there's a lot of things you can say about the Proud Boys, but calling them white supremacists is not one of them. Like, I'm not a fan of the Proud Boys. I think that they're escalators. I think they're far right militiamen. I think that they're violent, but calling them white supremacists when that's not what they're about, I disagree with. So I don't like how that
Hmm.
word gets thrown. Like, something can be bad and not be bad and racist, is my thought.
Hmm. Did you hear Yelp?
And so,
They're gonna start allowing people to complain if a business they think is racist now.
God, yes, I know. I heard that story and I
Yeah,
kind of
that was
cringed.
pretty new, and I thought, oh my God, that's just gonna turn into the worst thing ever.
It's gonna backfire. We're turning it, man. Like we're turning into a Orwellian future. I swear. Everyone's gonna rat out the Big Brother.
Yeah, it just it just seemed like a terrible idea, but yeah, from what I understand about the Proud Boys, I mean, their de facto leader, I mean, he's Latino, isn't
Yeah, that's actually the funny part. Like, so I was gonna bring this up because, um, so their leader right now is a black Cuban.
he?
So right there, you got a Latino and a black person, two people that the white supremacists wouldn't like. So the idea that
He was elected their leader too. He didn't just kind of, or was he appointed? I don't know.
I don't know that far, but I mean that sort of kind of defeats the idea that they're a white supremacist organization right there. Furthermore, I mean, I don't know if I ever sent you the link, but like the founder of the Proud Boys was on the Joe Rogan podcast one time, and if anyone thinks the Proud Boys are white supremacists, I would just want them to. I actually showed one of my friends who thought like because he watched the debate, he didn't know who the
Hmm.
Proud Boys were. Joe Biden said Proud Boys are white supremacists and racist, and so that's what he thought. I said, listen, man, I don't like them, but they're not white supremacists. And like I showed him the whole podcast with the founder of the Proud.
Hmm.
And like you'll watch this podcast or listen to this podcast, and the guy Gavin McInnes, he's like a comedian. Like he just bullshit. He just talks, and you can
He's the
definitely tell
original hipster, right? From what I heard.
that's what he called himself. Like there's a lot of things you can call him, but a white supremacist is not one of them. For one, he's married to an Indian woman. And for two, like, here's another thing that's kind of funny about it because, like, I heard this story about how gay guys were sort of like they were going to call themselves Proud Boys to basically troll the Proud Boys. The thing about the Proud Boys is Gavin openly says we're pro-gay.
Was that are you talking about when they just took over the hashtag Proud Boys? A bunch of gay people, couples took over the hashtag for like a day or so.
Yeah, like gay guys wanted to basically troll the Proud Boys by saying like, "Hey, we're totally going to take your name and we're going to make it like gay pride." But the thing about the Proud Boys is, if you look at their like their founder, when he says and what the whole group represents, they're pro-gay.
Yeah, didn't he make out with Gavin make out with Milo Yiannopoulos at one event or something like that? I think there's even
Yeah,
video of it.
Gavin's I know. Gavin said he made out with Milo to piss off Muslims.
Are they anti-Islam?
They are. That's what I'm saying. Like there's a lot of things about them I don't like, but calling them white supremacists is not accurate.
They're
So like
going about the wrong. They're blaming the wrong thing.
Well, here's the thing. So the reason why they were founded, the Proud Boys, is they were specifically founded for one purpose. They wanted
As
to
a
fight
joke,
into.
right?
Well, yeah, it started as a joke.
Yeah, against one of their coworkers because he was a little bit effeminate, and they used like an Aladdin song, right? It was the word "Proud Boys" was based off an Aladdin song.
I don't know if it was Aladdin. It could have been. I think it was a Broadway
Yeah.
musical, but yeah. So that was the name the Proud Boys because like Gavin McInnes had a coworker who he thought was really effeminate, so he basically wanted to start a masculinity club where basically guys basically just were guys. And then that sort of evolved into they wanted to fight Antifa. That's all they wanted to do because Gavin McInnes would go out and make speeches, and then Antifa would protest his speeches, and then the Proud Boys sort of served as his private security. A gang. They basically became a gang, and then like that's what the Proud Boys became. So there's a lot of things you can call them. Far right, yes. Aggressive, violent, yes. Escalators, yes. White supremacists, no. That's my only issue. Is Joe Biden wants to say anything that's bad is racist bad. No, something can just be bad.
Now, that's not to say there aren't probably some white supremacists within the organization. You're gonna find that in anything.
There could be white supremacists within PETA.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, but that doesn't make the organization white supremacist.
Yeah, as
For
a
instance,
whole.
these are actually very pro-animal rights.
Who is?
The Nazis. Hitler was he was a vegetarian, and he was a huge animal rights activist.
Really?
Yeah.
Just
So
not
actually,
the human, species.
well, he didn't like Jews for sure.
Specifically.
Specifically Jews, but he didn't like anyone who wasn't Aryan, really. But it was mostly the Jews because he thought the Jews were running everything.
And it's kind of ironic that he may have been dating a Jew.
Maybe, but actually, my big takeaway of what we should learn from history about Adolf Hitler is never trust art school rejects.
Say that again. Never trust.
Never trust art school rejects because they will be the most unhappy people on the planet, and they will basically radicalize you.
Oh yeah, art people are probably more critical of art than anything else, or comparatively. Like I remember trying to start poetry, and I went onto some forums, and they were ruthless.
Really?
Yeah, and this wasn't even like the technical poetry form. This was just like the free verse, and they were still ruthless.
Oh my god. I know. There's a lot of memes just out there about like what would you do if you had a time machine? And one of the things I saw was like a guy would go back and tell Adolf Hitler, "Hey, keep up the art. You're doing good." He's like, and then Hitler would be like, "Thanks, bro."
Was the Norm Macdonald joke? He doesn't want to use the time machine to go back in time to meet Hitler because he'd be afraid he'd be wooed by his charm.
Yeah. So I mean, the funny thing though is like I'm pretty sure I looked into this, but the Nazis never commanded a majority of German support. Like they had a strong minority, and you know how it works. Like, not every country is a two-party system like the United States, right?
Yeah.
So you can have plurality and still be in charge, but not a majority.
Yeah,
So
but it was a majority that just didn't even respect the minority, even if they had a multi-party system at that time, right?
right.
Wait, was it the Night of the Thousand Cuts or Knives, right? That where the Nazis went in and just murdered a whole bunch of their political opponents.
Fuck, I didn't know about that. I definitely knew that like even before they gained power, the Nazis weren't like good guys that were just trying to use the democratic system to get
Hmm.
they were very much violent, like gang. Uh,
Well, I mean,
so
which is also kind of the ironic part because that's where the whole Antifa movement started, right? Was with kind of the pre-Nazi um, regime that was being set up.
yeah, see, that's I made a video about that I posted on our channel because I just wanted more Democrats. Well, I think there are very sensible Democrats, you being one of them.
Thank you.
That yeah, okay. I think that Antifa meant to shift the dialogue, shift the conversation further to the left. And my argument was that like Antifa doesn't actually like Democrats. Like they don't like anyone that's not a full blown communist. Because like
Yeah.
Ernst Ernst Thälmann, who was the head of the Communist Party of Germany and the founder of Antifa, Antifascista, I think was called in Germany. I think his quote was, "We must not let a few Nazi trees overshadow the forest of social democrats," meaning that like he didn't think Hitler was the biggest threat to their movement. He thought the liberals were the biggest threat to the movement.
Hmm.
Yeah, and that's just why I want more people to be aware that, like, hey,
Hmm.
like I think socialized healthcare could work. I think that a redistributive tax system could work. But if you're relying on Antifa to be your muscle to do these things, you're not going to be actually. It's not a good thing.
Yeah. What do you think about like the whole organization right now as it is? I've heard the argument like, it's not really a collective organization, right? There's no pro de facto leader. And
Right.
that it's
Yeah.
more of like a counter movement than a true movement.
Well, it's not really a counter movement; it's a movement. I mean, Winston Churchill said that like the fascist movement in the future will call themselves anti-fascist, which is fucking what happened. So and he was dead on. Uh, it's like I mean, but like that implies that like, but the thing is, like I just used the quote from Ernst Thälmann that basically anyone who's not a communist is a fascist in their eyes. Liberals are
Hmm.
fascists.
Anyone
So
who's not a Democrat is, a fascist, or anyone who's a
no, not even
Republican.
no. It's not even that. That's what I'm saying. Like you could be a sock dem, you could be a social democrat, you could be a neoliberal,
Hmm.
and you would still consider it a fascist to the Antifa because it's not really anti-fascist. What it is a communist, and it
Yeah,
makes sense. But it makes sense that there would be a head of the organization because that's not how communists see their future. They're anarcho-communists. They
hmm
believe that they're gonna destroy the state, and then everyone's gonna just like divide themselves into these little anarcho-communes where everyone is basically equally represented by
hmm
voting. That so it makes sense that there wouldn't be like a strict hierarchy in Antifa. That doesn't mean that Antifa isn't violent. It doesn't mean that Antifa isn't destructive. I mean, we got fucking $2 billion worth of damage this year in riots, so I think it's very destructive.
hmm
Um, and that's why I'm really concerned about Joe Biden not condemning them. Because, like, here's the funny thing. So Donald Trump, when asked, "Will you condemn white supremacy?" he says, "Sure." Like, I'll do it. When Joe
hmm
Biden, "Will you condemn Antifa?" he says, "Antifa is not a organization; it's a movement." Okay, will you condemn the movement? He won't do it.
Yeah, it's kind of Hippocratic.
Well, the thing that actually concerns me the most about Joe Biden isn't Antifa. It's the fact that he won't answer the question, will you pack the Supreme Court? The fuck,
Yeah,
he,
he literally said he wouldn't answer that, right? Or at least Kamala said that during her part of the debate, right?
yeah, so Joe Biden was asked that in his debate, and he said, you just have to go out and vote. That was his answer. That, well, shouldn't the voters know what they're voting for? And then Kamala Harris was asked that question in the vice presidential debate, and she says, go out and vote. And then Joe Biden was asked again, like not in the debate, but he just says like, "You'll find out after the election." God damn it, just answer the fucking question. If you can't be honest about that, then like, why should we vote for you if you're not even going to be honest?
Mm-hmm.
Like, listen, because he knows if he says yes, I'll pack for it, he'll lose because it's politically untenable. But he
Mm-hmm.
also he won't do it because then means like, well, when he does do it, he's a liar. So
It's the political answer, right? It's the best political answer.
well, the best political answer is to not answer the question, then your politics suck.
That seems to be the case more often than not, though.
I know, but that's not the country I want to live in. I mean, like that's okay. So you didn't watch the Mike Pence Kamala Harris debate,
Mm-mm.
so I'm not going to hold you to anything Kamala Harris said. But at least from what I saw, Pence answered every question that was asked of him, and Harris deflected a lot, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would have to take a look to.
Of course,
I
I might have a bias because I'm planning on voting for Trump, but I can say that CNN had a focus group of 20 quote unquote undecided voters. And of the 20 undecided voters, 19 of them said Pence won the debate.
really.
Yeah,
That's
because they said that Kamala Harris came off as fake and phony and didn't answer questions.
I'll definitely have to take a look. I didn't even see any of the highlights of it. I was just so like busy, and the first one was such a shit show that it's like, how could this be any better?
Oh well, it can be better because we know why the first one was a shit show because Trump is immature.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can hate Mike Pence for his policies, but I think we can both acknowledge that Pence is far more like calm than Trump.
Yeah, he's more collected. He's so calm he
Yeah.
can't notice the fly on top of his head for 2 minutes.
Oh, see, that's how you know that Mike Pence won the debate because the media just like
He's
seriously
a
though.
Zen master, you know.
But that's actually like actually what I was gonna say is like you actually know that Mike Pence won the debate when the media does nothing but talk about the fly. And like they talk about how political discourse is disintegrating in this country, and then like the entire media coverage of a presidential debate is there was a fly on Mike Pence's head. Okay, well then you guys aren't really contributing to the political discourse either. You're just basically being like sensationalist bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't add anything really to the facts of the debate. It's just kind of a funny observation.
It's a funny observation, sure, but like it's funny that it's top line. It's headline news.
Hmm.
Meanwhile, the actual substance of the debate was completely overlooked.
Did they talk about Kyle Rittenhouse at all during their debate? I know they may have touched on it in the first one with Trump and Biden, but did they talk about it in the vice presidential debate at all?
Kyle, Kyle Rittenhouse didn't come up in that debate. So I was going to ask you your opinion. What is your take on the Kyle Rittenhouse incident? What do you think about it? Like from a moral standpoint, did he do anything wrong?
Hmm. I mean, certainly when I first heard the headline, it sounds awful. Um, and for a lot of people, they won't go beyond that initial kind of reaction and maybe the follow up too. But I think it's been a while now, and there's been some more evidence coming out from both witnesses and just actual testimony. And I mean, I do think I don't know exactly what happened, where the first guy was actually killed, and what was the lead up because there's no video or any other evidence to kind of point what happened. But all
Well,
the reading into all the
uh,
background stuff, it doesn't seem quite as likely that he would have done it. And a lot of people like to bring up the him shooting the two guys out of self defense and whatnot. And seeing the video did lead me to believe that he was more justified in his stance. And then a lot of people saying he was like colluding with the like police and he shouldn't have been out there protecting the business, and you know, a lot of that stuff. And I tend to lean more towards him being innocent than guilty at this point.
Yeah, and I think I more or less agree with you for the most
Hmm.
part. So my take on it is, uh,
It does
this,
seem like the next sort of Nick Sandman incident where the initial reaction was, "Oh, guy, this kid's a prick," and he was like leading him on. But as you kind of find out more of the facts around what happened, it really wasn't the case.
right, and actually, I think like Rittenhouse's lawyer is suing the Biden campaign for libel because they called him a white supremacist without any evidence to say that he is. Um, like once again, I will bring up the whole idea that something can be bad and not bad and racist at the same.
Hmm.
So like
Uh,
my thought about Kyle Rittenhouse, I 90% agree with you for the most part because like I agree that he shouldn't have been out there. Like from a pragmatic standpoint, I would never advise anyone to do anything that he did. Like it's just stupid. I wouldn't do it. But
yeah,
just from a moral standpoint, was he within his right to defend himself? Like for me, that one's a clear cut yes.
you could see
Like
him
from
being
what
attacked in the video, right?
right, exactly. So what the video evidence shows is that he's being chased and attacked, and like he's running away. So it's not like he's just like taking a fight. He's running away. He's trying to get away, and it's only until they get within like arm's length distance that he actually shoots.
Hmm.
So to me, that's like saying like he did everything within his like moral duty to retreat from the situation, and the person basically never gave up chasing him, which means he's within his moral right to basically defend himself. Now,
Hmm.
would he should he have been there? No, I would not advise him to have been there because it's not his business. Um, he was 17 years old. He's just a kid. Um, so there's a lot of things wrong with the situation. But in terms of like, did he do anything morally wrong by defending himself? No. And the best example I've heard in this like analogy is like, let's say like a teenage girl like who's 18 uses the fake ID to go into a bar. Now we can all
Hmm.
agree to be in there, but in the situation like, what if she is like attacked while she's in the bar and she ends up killing her attack? Is the argument going to be like she shouldn't have defended herself because she shouldn't have been there? No, it would never have been that. We can agree
Hmm.
she shouldn't have been there, but we also know that like she was morally justified in defending herself.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why he was there was defend a car repair shop or something to do with automobiles, some sort of store there,
Yeah,
right? And they were worried that the protesters would like break in or loot the place or burn it or something. So he was just there to help. And
yeah. So like I think
also in like previous days during like the protests too, he was supposedly there helping protesters, right, with like bandages and water
yeah,
and.
no,
Mhm.
I I said it like I said like this like on any other circumstance this kid seemed like a model citizen.
Mhm.
Uh, because like there's actually video of him saying he supports Black Lives Matter. He's just there protecting private property.
Mhm.
Um, there's video of him saying that. And yeah, I think what happened was basically there had been 2 days of ongoing riots where businesses were being burnt down. And so like one of these businesses called like an open call out to any like people, hey, would you come defend our business because we're worried about like the ongoing riots and protests. So he
Mhm.
basically responded because, and people liked to me. There was a big deal about him crossing state lines, which that's sort of a bullshit argument from my standpoint because like I
Because
think
it's
he
only
lived
like
like
40 miles away, right?
it was something less than that. I think he lived right on
Mhm.
the border.
Yeah, it was like
Like I
Antioch, I
can't
think,
remember.
Illinois.
Yeah, so it was only like a 15-minute drive or something like that. So like, look, come on, he didn't like travel like across like multiple states to pick a fight. He's
Mhm.
that's part of his community, basically.
Yeah, within the greater like suburb area base. basically.
Exactly. So I don't know why there was a lot of talk about that. Oh, he crossed state lines. I mean, that argument might make sense. Like if a guy from like Boise, Idaho, traveled to Portland because there was riots going on in Portland, you can make that argument that he was trying to pick a fight. But
Mm-hmm.
no, this kid Kyle Rittenhouse, he's of the community. This is his community, and he wanted to defend a business because the business was asking for help.
Yeah, and something happened that just led up to a guy being killed. Did you have any insight on that? Did you know anything that heard anything that why that happened
Yeah.
or?
So according to the Rittenhouse defense team, and like you just gotta take them at their word or not.
Mm-hmm.
What happened was that the guy who Rittenhouse eventually killed had started a fire in a dumpster, and Rittenhouse took a fire extinguisher and put it out. And then this guy was not happy about the fact that Rittenhouse put out the fire, so he chased it.
Hmm.
That's according to the so once again, there's no actual evidence whether that's true or not. It just
Mm-hmm.
comes down to trust the defense team or not, because that's their stand.
Yeah, and I basically kind of heard the same thing. I think I also heard like he may have also mistaked Rittenhouse for a different guy that had started
Mm.
that fire, and it was just by accident that he thought it was that guy. Maybe he didn't have a good look at him, but yeah, I basically heard the same thing. And I mean, you can see video right up into the point where he's leaving the guy getting shot. But unfortunately, there's no clear evidence of what led up to that. Him shooting him. Probably something close to what happened with him being on the ground in the street, getting attacked by a guy with a skateboard and a guy with a gun.
Yeah, I think no one's questioning that one. That video is pretty
Hmm.
clear cut. It's more the first video that people are questioning, and even then, like guys being chased.
Hmm.
Um, then like I heard the argument, well, maybe Kyle Rittenhouse said like "fuck you" and was like essentially, but like Kyle Rittenhouse could be the biggest asshole on the planet, and it wouldn't make a difference to me in terms of was he morally justified in defending himself. Because like at a point where you're running away and you're chasing a guy who has a gun, you're just a fucking dumb guy who's asking to be killed. Like I
Yeah.
don't that's one of the things that no one seems to be talking about. Like why aren't we wondering why this guy who's chasing a guy who clearly has a gun and there was like a warning shot or there was a gunshot somewhere at some point. Kyle Rittenhouse, I think, heard a gunshot and assumed that the guy chasing him had a gun, shot him. Or Kyle, I don't, or maybe he gave off a warning shot. I'm not 100% sure about that one. But
Hmm.
how dumb do you have to be to basically chase the guy with a gun?
Yeah,
Running away from
I think the guy had his hands up in the video at one point, and then he like backed down, and then maybe he was reaching for his gun, but that
well,
may have been the point where he decided to shoot. But
no, from what I saw, the video basically showed that the guy chasing him was throwing stuff at him, and it was only until he got within arm's reach that Kyle shot
yeah, I swear in one part of the video he was holding up his hands, but and that's how he got shot in the arm, right? I think
Oh no,
one of
no, that's just video. That's the video where he's like Kyle's on the ground and people are like
oh,
attacking
okay,
him.
we got the wrong we're talking about the wrong person then.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
Okay.
and here's something that's kind of interesting, just a fun fact. I don't know if it's fun. Um, the two people that Kyle killed, one
Hmm.
was a did like child molester, and the other one was convicted of domestic violence. So these weren't
Yeah. Um, I heard the same thing. I actually did. I looked that up on Snopes. I think the one with the domestic abuse charge wasn't ever like officially indicted. There was a call
really
made, but he wasn't ever like taken in and prosecuted for that.
okay. Well, I didn't know that. That's actually good. But then the one that
But
like was a
the
pedophile.
child molester, yeah, I don't know if it was child, but it was a minor uh, being molested, and that happened like 20 some years ago. But yeah, he did have that on his record. Interesting. It doesn't. I don't. in the full scheme of the case, I don't think it adds to his being innocent or guilty. But
No. It has nothing to do with the actual case. Like, I don't advocate for people going around hunting down pedophiles. As much as I hate pedophiles, I don't think that like
I don't
anyone.
I don't say they should be hunted down.
Yeah, I know. Like, that's the thing. Like, as much as I hate them, I don't think that they lose their right to life, and that basically vigilantes should have the right to go around hunting. I
Mhm.
don't think that at all. That would be terrible. That would be a horrible world. But I know, so it doesn't actually matter in terms of the facts of the case. It's just sort of a like kind of an interesting side note in the sense that like, what are the odds that the person you end up killing in self defense is also a convicted pedophile? And now you say like it wasn't child molestation. I don't know if you're raping a 14-year-old or a 15-year-old or whatever. I don't know. I
I
don't know if
don't
I'd
think
call
that
that.
the full facts in the case are actually disclosed. It was just that he sexually assaulted a minor. So
Okay, well that already makes him a dick. Okay,
I mean it's enough for him to register as a pedophile.
yeah, except in California.
It depends on how old he was at the time.
Yeah, like you heard about that new law, right? Like
Yeah,
basically,
that got passed,
within
didn't it?
10 years. What?
That got passed, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. Like, if you're within 10 years of age, different. As long as it was consensual, then you don't have to register as a sex offender. That doesn't say that you can't be charged with a crime, but you don't have to register as a sex offender. Which, well, we could talk about that in another podcast.
Yeah, I mean that has its whole. I understand some of the reasoning, but the law itself I don't think is written out very well.
Right. Okay. Well, we were able to squeeze the Proud Boys and Kyle Rittenhouse in, even though the podcast at start.
Yeah, it was definitely a hard squeeze, but nonetheless, it was squeezed in.
Right. All right. And so hopefully for you guys, we'll have the Satanist on next week.
I
And
still want
if you
his
haven't,
opinion on cuties.
yeah. Oh wait, you still haven't watched Cuties? Please don't watch Cuties. It's
No,
just
I
not
haven't
worth
watched.
it.
No, I haven't watched it, but I was still hoping to get his opinion on, even if he hasn't watched it, what his idea being a Satanist is on the movie.
Okay, well, we can ask him next week, hopefully. Um, yeah. So, anyways,
Number one
you
question.
have
My
what?
number
Yeah,
one
but your number
question
one
for
question is about Cuties.
you. Right now,
Oh,
yeah.
just one quick question before we leave. What do you think of the QAnon?
Oh man, some people have asked me that too because they don't know a whole lot about it, and that would be something I'd have to do some research on. It seems kind of weird. A lot of people though subscribe to it. A lot of people, and I
I
know
think,
it's basically that they think that Trump is trying to out the sexual predators and the more seedy parts of society and government out.
yeah. So,
Trying to do that basically, but
the basic summary of what the QAnon conspiracy is that there's this person named Q
yeah,
who goes on online chat forum and exposes secrets of the deep state, and that the actual world is being run by a secret cabal of pedophiles and Satanists, and that Trump's real goal in office is trying to out them. And that's the overall conspiracy. And you know what? It doesn't seem too crazy to me when like more and more pedophiles keep coming up, and the Epstein like thing that's just and I don't, it's one of those things that has no evidence to back it up. I get that, but at the same time, is it plausible? There's a surprising number of pedophiles in high positions of power.
yeah. Is that correlation or is that causation? That's a good question.
Right. That's
Um,
something we get to discuss in another.
I
I
might
would love
be
to.
willing to believe it a little bit more if my opinion on Trump was that he was really that subversive.
Uh, I do remember he was asked about QAnon, and like his answer was like, "Well, I hadn't heard about that, but if it if that's what they believe, is that such a bad thing that I'm hunting pedophiles? That was
That's what they believe is not such a bad thing.
like it's like he's like someone accused him, says like, so there's a bunch of people online who think that you're hunting down pedophiles. Can you comment on that? And he says, and I think his response was like, he's like, well, I don't know anything about that, but if I was, that's such a bad thing.
Okay. Trump answer, I guess.
And, and I would love actually your friend Joel, who
Oh yeah.
you described. Like if we ever get him on the podcast, I'd love to talk about this issue with him. You described him as the most libertarian person you know.
Based on all the online stuff I see, yeah.
Right. So if we ever get him on the podcast, I'd love to bring up this topic with him. I'd love to get his point of view.
On QAnon? Yeah, I don't think he posted all about it, so I would be curious his opinion too.
Well, QAnon is specifically a hard libertarian sort of conspiracy. I mean, it's definitely you can definitely it's definitely related to Alex Jones. I mean, even though he's not Q, Alex Jones is not Q. Um, like that's what Alex Jones has been talking about for years now, and it's
Yeah,
sort of
yeah.
so the idea that like yeah, if you have a friend who's a hardcore libertarian, like your friend Joel, I would want to get his opinion about QAnon.
Okay, yeah. I'll definitely like bring that up with him when I talk to him.
Right. Okay. Well, hey, always good chatting with you, Tina, and Tina and Karen do this. I'm Karen.
This is Tina. We're sending out.
Awesome. Yeah. Everyone have a good week. You know, stay safe and stay hydrated. We love you.
Boom.
Boom. All right, man. That was a good one, I think.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they're kind of freeballing. Definitely always goes in ways I don't expect.
Yeah, like we didn't have a real set schedule for this one, so we did pretty good knowing that like